So, uh, what we want to do yesterday is, I told you we added two libraries yesterday. We add this and this. So there is a library. Okay, this MySQL driver will not work for it. You understand? So you remove this driver so that we add another driver for the version of the MySQL we have. So in this case, we need to add folder so that we look at where the
Oh, desktop. All folders. Add setup. Yeah.
touch it. Did you extract it?
Yes, sir.
No, you are not supposed to extract it.
Okay. Okay. The
I go back to computer.
It's a jar file.
okay.
You don't need to extract it so that I don't know so that we won't have problem.
Okay. Is like I
Where is the file?
downloaded full folder. Download. Yeah. Right.
Is it not a jar file?
That's not Java 8.
Uh,
You should go and use the extracted.
no, no problem.
Maybe we should download
Let's
it.
just go for that one.
The former one. Desktop. All folders first from desktop.
Hey.
Sorry.
So we have the jar. We've added the jar. Then there is something again I sent to your Slack. I mean Skype. One connection string like that. Where is your Slack?
Inside WhatsApp.
I sent to WhatsApp. I sent to Skype. So now you right click on this your model. So you generate entity classes from database. So you choose new connection. So this is not what you are going to choose. Let's remove it. Let's add that particular one that we choose the other time.
Folder. App setup.
That is what we are going to use because the version of our MySQL. Now if you check what I sent to you on Slack, this I have to use this connection too. So just paste it here. So you see now we have school, then you put your password there.
So that thing that you copied now, is it
It's the connection to the database.
okay?
You don't
Like it's static.
it's static. That is how you connect.
Every
Because
time.
yes, because we are using MySQL version 8. If it's MySQL version 5, what we have here we do is enough.
What if we are using that workbench?
It's still the same thing.
What if you are using what?
Workbench.
Yeah?
Workbench.
You see now it has retrieved the table.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only table. And if you add another table, you just come and add the entity. So you generate the table. Okay, you may generate persistent unit. If you like generate name query, but we don't need it. Make this one to be list. So you finish the whole stuff. So your table will be generated and be added to this package.
But sir, this setting is just for this project, not for any other project.
If you want to do any other project too, you need to add this jar to it. You understand?
Yes, sir.
if you want to do any other project. So if I want to generate entity class from database now, all I have to do is right click. So this one would have been there.
Okay.
And even if you create another table, you see that
Create
table
the
here.
table, yeah.
So you can just pick the table,
You can add it.
click on it, pick the table, add it then.
And if you want to remove tables,
If you want to
just
remove table,
it there. So
just remove it from there. So there is something you need to create. You need to create your service. So make your service to be
yesterday
a
we
class.
created I think we created
Students.
not like a package and also a class.
Yes, we created this package. We are in the process of creating a class. We created a package called table project dot model, table project dot service. We are in the process
That
of
is
generate.
we
Yes,
created two packages.
yes, we are in the process of generating this.
Class.
Then we have issues. So now, whenever you generate entity classes from database, you will see there is a meta inf that will come with it. So this is where the connection to your database is. If you look at it here, this is the property of, this is your password, the password you put, right?
Yes.
So this is the table you have, because it's converted the table to a class so that you can interact with the class. So and whatever interaction you do on the class, and this is the name of your persistent unit. Me, I usually love to change it to what JPA, so that I can make reference to it in my application easily. That is all you need to do. So here we need to create, there is what we call CRUD operation in every entity, because what we just generated now is entity. This model is entity in the sense that it make connection to database. So you pass data to this model, you save this student, it will now save it into database. So what we are using to save, you can use what we are using to save into database, we are using JPA. So if it is, and we have a native JDBC, you can use that one too. But that one is, you don't need entity classes. You have to write a lot of queries, but it's no, people are no longer using it. But you can use JPA for your desktop application, and but when you get to web, you use JPA, but it's another way. But it's still going to be the same form of a query you are going to write. So we normally have what we call CRUD operation on every table. So that's a create, retrieve, update, and delete. So CRUD operation. So now, but we can have different retrieve version of you can have retrieve. I can have one that retrieve by name, I can have one that retrieve by email, I can have one that retrieve by mail and email. You understand? So this is where all your SQL query will now comes in place. So what we need to do now is, if we want to create, this is how to create. So when you create, you may decide to return the object you create. Do you understand?
When we create,
You may decide to return the object you create. So but I will make all this method to be static. Static in the sense that, so that I will just say app service dot, I will call the name of the method. But I explained this thing to you that day, that when you make a method static, you don't need to say, if I want to call a method under this class now, I create this class, I can create a method. Let's create a method for save. Let's call it public static student. Let's say, okay, add student. Right? What I want to add is what? Student st. Do you get it?
yeah.
Or when you're adding student, you may say void add student. I want to add the student. So the first thing is, what you are going to do now is, you are not is it doesn't change, except if the version of the JPA change. So it's still going to be the same thing. You have entity manager factory. Now we persistence dot create entity manager factory. So the name I changed to the other time, that is what you will put here. So just understand the concept. Because I've been using this one for long, that's why I know that okay, entity manager factory is equal to this. But
Okay.
if you know you can't remember, you can just copy and use. But just know that this name must be equal to this name.
Okay. Persistent unit
Yes,
name.
the persistent unit name here. So you now create entity manager. Now say entity manager. I used to give it em. Whatever identifier you have, you know. That's em dot what? Get
EM time. EMP then.
EMP.
mp dot create entity manager. So you now say okay, em dot get transaction dot begin. And when you finish your operation, you now say em dot get transaction dot commit. Get transaction dot begin is if you didn't commit your transaction, anytime you add something to it, it's not, it will just tell you that it has been added successfully, but it will not save it into the database. So there are four methods when you want to add. We have em dot persist. What you want to persist, you put it here. I want to persist this what? Student.
Student.
Do you understand it? What you only need to know about is you don't nothing concerning you about. Just know that you call this one, you end it. The only need to what you need to know here is you persist whatever object you want to persist. If I have employee, I can persist it. If I have student, that means I have to create a method called add student. Do you get this?
Yes, sir.
So let's create a method that get student by id. You know that one, when I get, I want to return the student. Find by id. So that anytime I put, what's the id you put for this student? Is it a long or integer? You didn't have primary key for your table. See this one.
So I have my key. I think I used the
This student ID.
Yes, sir.
Why will you use this student id as a primary key?
Because I feel it's particular to them.
Well, that means you're supposed to have a key called auto increment. Well, if you don't have, it's still the same thing. We can say okay, string id, right? Since your data type for that id, this one is id. Now say you will still do the same thing here.
Okay, all this cool stuff.
Yes, but the only thing we want to find, you just say okay, student st is equal to em dot find. What you want to find is student dot class. So and what you will pass here is id. So at the end you just return what? St. I don't know if you people get what I'm saying.
No.
It has a method to find a student by id. So it means that you need to put the class you want to find here, the id of the student.
Okay.
I just return what I
Okay.
retrieve from here,
Okay, okay.
so that I can make use of it later in a program.
Okay.
So that means if I need a student now, I can just say student is equal to find service dot find by id. I'll pass the id of the student, so that we'll be able to fetch the details of the student. Do we get it?
Yes.
How do we update? If you want to update, it's still the same thing. But the student must exist in the database before you update. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So that means when you are updating, the student, this student you are updating must have an id, must have a primary key that already exists in the table, which is that student id. Where is that your insert? You just say em dot merge. Merge is to update. What's different? This one is merge. This one is what? Persist.
Okay,
We
that's
read,
fine.
we retrieve. How do we delete? That means I can delete student by passing the ID of the student there. You understand? And maybe when I delete, I want to return a message,
Okay, string.
a string. So I can say okay, but before I will delete the student, I need to find the student with this ID. That means I want to say student is equal to, I already have a method that loop
Find.
up, that find student, and I say find that student. Where is it?
Found by ID.
Because I didn't put static there. Because if this one is static, that one must be static too. Find by ID. I just have to pass the student ID there, right?
Yes, sir.
I need to test that if st is not equal to null, that is if it actually retrieve a student. You understand? And that's a em dot, I think it's remove. We are removing this. So after removing, I supposed to even create a string response. So when I remove it, if I'm able to remove it, you understand?
Okay.
I will write response is equal to record deleted successfully. You understand? If I'm not able to remove it, that is if it's null.
Okay,
I can say rs is equal to record not found, because you can't delete a record that doesn't exist. So here I will now return what? My response. Do you understand it?
Yes, sir.
I can decide to say this one is
No.
no. This one you just say assign value, and when you didn't assign it, it will tell you that you should assign value to it. Well, do you understand it up to this stage?
Yes, sir.
There is no magic. Anytime you want to delete, this is the protocol you need to follow. You get the object you want to delete, you check whether the object exists before you call delete operation on it. And when you delete, show me that okay, this one deleted. Because if this object, if this delete operation is not successful, this message will not be record deleted. And whenever this object is null, that means the record does not exist. It will return what? This. So that you'll be able to show to user that record does not what? Exist. So the next thing is we want to fetch, right? And when we are fetching, we want to fetch list of what? Student. For now. Later I will now give you some other query. But always know that when you want to, you still all this thing is the same thing. I can just say okay, list student. I'm expecting list of students,
Yes.
right?
The return type.
I don't want to put anything. I just want to fetch the list of students. This is the return type. So that means here I have to create what? List of students. So but here there is a way to get list. You need to create a query. So this is what you can create dynamic query. All those MySQL query will normally pass. You now say okay, em dot create query. You can put your query here. If you know that you want to create MySQL query that select all from, because this is JPA has its own way. All you need to do is es dot create native query. If you know you want to say select all from student, you use native query.
Okay.
But when you use native query, you need to specify the class you want to map it to. Do you people understand it? Okay, let me do this one so that you understand. Native query have two constructor. Student dot what? Class. So here it will be select from what? Student. Right? Here I don't need to map anything here. Java dot persistent dot query. So all here you now say QS dot get result list. So get result list will now return the list of the students. So you will now from the select so that you can now make use of this student. After all, you already know how to map student to table the other time. Didn't you do it?
Okay, to add it to table.
Yes, now.
Okay.
So you just get so here instead of you now say list student. Do we understand it?
That's the name of the method.
Yes. Do we understand this? This is MySQL query. You already know how to write this query.
Yes.
This is just simple query. You can just set off from where. That means if you need to pass something, you need to put it here. Maybe parameter where username is equal to this.
So to specify the particular.
Yes. That means you need to pass it here. Okay. We are through with our service. This is a service. So for every entity, you need to have a service for it. So if I want to come here, where is that class? Here, let's change it from, let's change this. I don't know the data type you use.
For which one, sir?
So you're supposed to create it based on what we have on the form. I hope that is what you did.
Yes, sir.
So let's change it to what? Student what? You understand?
I don't do that. Change it to what?
We have student DTO before. We are changing it to student
Okay.
because we are not making use of DTO again. We are making
You
use of
change
the
it in
class.
Class student now.
You changed the student yesterday.
From
To
student you
D2.
change it to D2.
I renamed that one so that it will not conflict with the student we want to generate.
Okay.
You understand? Look at here where you get all this list. Yeah.
Donate them.
You just say return app
List to the app.
service dot
List to
list student so that it will fetch it from database for you.
Okay.
You know why? This one is a list of
the
students. Do we get it? So let's make correction. When we are adding students, supposed to be do we have this constructor?
Name. You have name now.
If you don't have this constructor, just create student is equal to this. Do you get it? You now use new student dot set what fee. You make your own to be it converted it to what big decimal. Go and change it to double. You can change it from here because you make it to be decimal.
Sir, but you're the one that made these changes, these big decimal changes.
No, when you are generating it,
Okay, to change.
yeah, it will change by itself.
Okay.
So just go and change it to what you set what fee. You know what we did the other time is we say double dot value of fee dot get text, right?
Okay.
New student dot set matric number. Where is it?
Next up.
I want to see what you use. Name text folders. Is it fun? What again? Why student ID?
Is another row there? Is another column there? Student ID.
Is it on the interface?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's interface.
It's
That was what
interface.
he made as the primary key.
Primary key.
So you need to enter it yourself.
No, I declare.
Instead of that, you don't present your student ID on the screen. You understand? You make it a primary key, but you hide it.
I don't understand how to edit this.
You make it a primary key, but you don't present it on the interface.
Okay.
On UI.
On UI, you don't present it
Okay.
because it's for your own use.
For me, I thought whatever is in the database must.
It's not a must.
Okay.
So let's say why this one is returning. This one should return student.
Most of it. Why you say wrong? Most of Jack. Tommy,
So all you need to do now is who can tell me the next thing to do?
So just run it now.
What will you run? You will check this whether it's equivalent to what you have in your model. This is now your model. You have name. You have student ID. Check this. Name. Name is correct. Student ID.
together.
Same thing. Phone. Magic
Phone number.
Together.
Or magic number.
Phone number is phone.
Even magic number.
Fee.
Matric number is underscore.
Yeah. No, we have another one that has underscore there.
You don't give consideration to that.
Okay.
Give consideration to the name of your class.
Right.
Not this one. This is the name of the column in the database. This is the new name you give. This is the name you'll be interacting with. Do you have any issue here again? Why are we now having the red light?
There's no other red this thing there.
This one still have BT.
That is update feed. Do we make a call to this? That is where the issue is coming from. So all you need to do, you need to clean and build. Because we've added a lot of code to it.
I have to make a way there.
Hey. What?
Yeah.
This is Syria.
let's stop the video so that we troubleshoot this error and